Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. We are back with the questions from Jurisprudence. The first question: how does jurisprudence help in understanding law? Jurisprudence explores the relationship between law and other normative systems, its moral foundation and its limitations. What insight does jurisprudence provide about the legal systems? It helps analyze how law shapes and responds to societal needs. What makes a law distinct from moral or social norms? Law is a formal, enforceable structure backed by the state. According to Hart, what are the two main types of rules in a legal system? Primary rules and secondary rules. What is the function of primary rules? They impose duties and regulate behavior by prescribing what individuals can or cannot do. What are the secondary rules in Hart's theory? They govern the creation, modification, and enforcement of primary rules. What are the three types of secondary rules identified by Hart? Rules of recognition, rules of change, and rules of adjudication. What is the rule of recognition? The rule of recognition is a fundamental secondary rule that provides the criteria for legal validity. Why is the rule of recognition important? It helps identify which laws are valid within a legal system. Why is law essential in a society? Law regulates behavior, maintains social order, and ensures justice. What is a rule? A rule is a prescribed guide for conduct or behavior. How are legal rules different from general rules? Legal rules are formal, written, and created by a recognized authority. Who creates legal rules? Legal rules are created by authorities such as the legislature, executive, or judiciary. How can law be understood as a system of rules? Law is a system of rules that govern individuals and institutions within a society. What is the purpose of legal rules? They maintain order, justice, and fairness in a society. What kinds of activities do legal rules regulate? Legal rules regulate private transactions, for example, contracts, and a public conduct, for example, criminal law. How does Hart view law as a social phenomenon? Law relies on the acceptance of rules by legal officials and a society. What is the internal perspective in Hart's theory? It refers to legal officials and citizens who accept and follow the law as binding. What is the external perspective in Hart's theory? It refers to analyzing law as a set of social facts, focusing on its effects rather than its legitimacy. What is Hart's stance on the relationship between law and morality? He maintains that law and morality are separate, although laws may reflect moral principles. What does Hart mean by judicial discretion? Judges have a discretion when interpreting vague or unclear laws. What makes legal rules formal and authoritative? They are created by a legitimate authority and enforced by courts and a law enforcement. Do legal rules apply to everyone? Yes, they are public and general, applying to all within a jurisdiction. How do legal rules function prescriptively and prohibitively? They prescribe required behaviors, for example, paying taxes, and prohibit specific actions, for example, theft, murder, etc. What is the open texture of law? Law is not always precise and requires interpretation in ambiguous cases. How does Hart criticize legal realism? He argues that legal realism overlooks the role of rules in structuring legal systems. What is the significance of the internal perspective in Hart's theory? It is essential for the proper functioning of the legal system, as officials must accept the rules as binding. How does Hart's rule of recognition differ from Kelson's ground norm? The rule of recognition is based on social acceptance by legal officials, while the ground norm is a hypothetical assumption. What is the primary goal of legal rules? To regulate social conduct by setting boundaries for acceptable behavior. How do legal rules contribute to social order? By protecting rights, resolving disputes, and promoting justice. Why is predictability important in legal rules? It helps individuals understand what is legally expected of them. How are legal rules different from social norms? Legal rules are enforced by the state, while social norms rely on informal mechanisms. What are the consequences of violating legal rules? Legal rules have formal sanctions like fines or imprisonment. What are the primary sources of legal rules? Legislation, judicial decisions, customary law, and a constitutional law. How does legislation contribute to legal rules? It consists of statutes or laws passed by legislative bodies. What role do judicial decisions play in legal rules? They create a precedence, especially in common law systems. What is customary law? Legal practices that have developed over time and are binding in certain communities. What does constitutional law define? It sets the fundamental principles, structures of government and rights. How are legal rules structured? They follow a hierarchy where higher laws like constitutional provisions take precedence. What is the difference between substantive and procedural legal rules? Substantive rules define rights and duties, while procedural rules outline enforcement methods. What is the rule of law? Rule of law is the principle that a law should govern society, not arbitrary decisions. Why is the rule of law important? It ensures fairness, accountability, and equality before law. Why is legal interpretation necessary? Because laws can be ambiguous or need adaptation to new circumstances. Who interprets legal rules? Judges and legal scholars. How do courts refine legal rules? Through judicial decisions based on precedent, context, and evolving values. What does legal justice focus on? The enforcement of laws. What is moral justice concerned with? Fairness and ethical behavior in social relations. How do autonomous theories explain legal decision making? By focusing on legal principles, precedents, and a coherence within the legal system itself. What is the connection between positivist and autonomous theories of law? Both see law as an independent system, but positivism focuses on authority, while autonomous theories emphasize internal legal consistency. Are legal rules static? No, they evolve through amendments, court rulings, and societal changes.